Hello and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, my name is Jill and today I am doing my August monthly recap. I really had to think there for a second if this was actually the end of August. Yes, it is. I'm going to talk about the books I read, the movies I watched, the TV shows I've been watching, and just other things I've been loving throughout the month. Let's start with books since I have some actual physical books here with me. I'm going to look at my app to see what I read this month. So I have read 6 books in August. And the first one I read was The Other Daughter by Lisa Gardner. This follows Melanie, who 20 years earlier was abandoned at a hospital and was then adopted by one of the doctors there into his very wealthy family. And, she's had a great life since then. However, she now kind of wants to know more about her life before that happened because she remembers nothing before being abandoned at the hospital. As she starts to dig into that, brings up all these dark secrets as it normally does, and some of these past events start intertwining and painting this story. I found this a little bit confusing at first, only because it follows a lot of different characters. It's focusing on different stories that you're not really sure how they're related, so then you forget about those people when you go back to these people. Maybe that's a me problem, but that's kind of what my experience with it was. Also, I think this is an older book. Let me see. 1999, because Melanie, the main character, there is a detective in the story, just because it is kind of like a mystery. So there's a detective, and then him and Melanie kind of start to fall in love, or there's like some chemistry there. But the way that it's written, like their relationship, there were just some passages that I was like, ooh, that is really cringy, like talking about how small and vulnerable she looks, and she's just like a child, and it really like kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I really liked this book at first. It really drew me in, and I was like hooked from the beginning. But then it kind of just got drawn out and nothing really happened for a while, and they're like planting all these seeds. So I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. I liked it, but I didn't love it. If you're into that kind of story of like mysteries, there are some darker themes to it. I would recommend checking it out, but definitely not top of my list. The next book I read was I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness by Austen Channing Brown. This is a kind of memoir-ish nonfiction book about Austen's life and her experience with going through the world that is made for whiteness as a Black woman. So obviously that is very different from what my story is as a white woman, but I really love reading about other people's experiences. That's how we learn about the world. And I thought this was a really impactful book that really shows the microaggressions that people experience in everyday life. And I really think that everyone should read this book, but I know that the people that would benefit most from reading it are not the people that are going to pick it up. This is one of those books that as soon as I read it, I just wanted to talk to somebody else about it because I was so angered by some of the things that happened in the book that I just wanted to be like, can you believe that someone would say something like this, that someone would do something like this? And of course we can believe that because we see the world that we live in, but it just was a very powerful book that I wanted to discuss with other people. I think it'd be a great book for like a book club or something like that because I think it is something that really fosters engagement and conversation after you read it. And I gave this book 4 stars. Next is a book I read on my Kobo, and that is My Husband's Wife by Jane Corey. This is a psychological thriller that follows, I can't remember people's names after I read it, follows Lily, who is married to Ed, and they live in an apartment building, and then they have a next door neighbor, Carla, who is a 9-year-old girl. And so it follows them when Carla is 9 and like the intertwining of their lives in living in this apartment building. Lily is a lawyer and she's doing her first big case, a murder case. So she's like meeting with the suspect in jail. So there's those 3 aspects happening. And then it flashes forward to when Carla is a grown woman. I really enjoyed this at first. I thought it was kind of that typical female main character thriller where she's not making all of the decisions that you want her to make, but it was good. It kind of was like she was ignoring a lot of red flags. But then it just kind of got silly, for lack of a better word. I don't really know how to put it, but I figured out all of the twists and turns before they happened, so I was not surprised by anything. There was a whole chapter later in the book that I know was supposed to be like a edge of your seat, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening type of chapter. And for me, I was like, yeah, we know. Yep, we figured that out 10 chapters ago. So it was a bit of a disappointing conclusion for me. But again, I read a lot of thrillers, so I can kind of see the twists and turns, even if they're like these far out twists and turns. So if you like psychological thrillers, pick it up because it's a pretty good one, but if you read a lot, you might not be surprised by it. And I don't necessarily have to be surprised by every thriller I read, but it's always nice. So I gave this 3.5 stars. Next, I read The Cactus by Sarah Haywood, and I picked this up from the library because it was a Reese Witherspoon book club pick, and I read a lot of those. I've said this before, but they're very hit or miss for me. So I knew nothing about this book other than it was on this list of Reese Witherspoon's. So I picked it up, and the first thing I read when I opened the cover was that it was for fans of, what is that book called? Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine? Yes. And I was like, I really, really, really did not like that book. So this should be interesting. I hope I like this book that I am going to read. Another thing about me, I do not give up on books. I always think there might come a point when I really, really end up liking the book. So I think I have not finished like one book in my life. So I was committed to reading this book. It follows Susan, who is like a cactus, hence the title. And she is very particular. She likes things done her way. She's not flexible in her thinking. She's very pragmatic. And she suddenly loses her mother. And she also finds out that she is pregnant herself. So she is dealing with losing her mother and about to become a mother herself when she didn't really know if that was something she wanted to do, but she has decided to go through with it. And so I will say for the first about 50% of this book, I did not care. I thought Susan was terrible. She also was not very interesting to me. It just was kind of one note because it was all about her being this like unmoving person that just goes through her life, is very analytical with things, and that was like the only note to her. There wasn't more layers to her that were being revealed at first. Obviously, as you go through the book, you learn about her childhood and you figure out why she is the way that she is. And then around like 60%, all of a sudden, there's like these layers of her that become unraveled. And so then you kind of are like, oh, she is like a multi-layered person and there's more there. And so I ended up giving it 3 stars. I think it was fine. I did end up liking the end of the book, but I think it took me so long to get to the point where I like actually wanted to pick it up and read it. This might be an unpopular opinion because it has a lot of really great reviews, and obviously Reese picked it for her book club. So if it sounds like something that would be up your alley, definitely pick it up. For me, it just was too much of a slow burn to get to me actually caring about the characters. Next, I read 48 Clues into the Disappearance of My Sister by Joyce Carol Oates. This is a very interesting book. So this follows Gigi, and she's from like a wealthy family in upstate New York, and her sister Marguerite goes missing one day. She disappears. And so there's 48 chapters, and each one is a quote-unquote clue into the disappearance of M, as she calls her, told through Gigi's perspective. It's a very oddly written book. I can see that some people would probably pick it up, read like the first 2 chapters and be like, I don't understand what this is, what this writing style is, and would probably give up on it. It's a very short book, so I was like, yeah, let's power through it and see what this is all about. So Gigi is a bit of another unlikable character. So you're not necessarily sure if you're like on her side, if you're being told the truth. She's unreliable as a narrator, so you're kind of just having to go along on this ride that she takes you on. I can't say too much about it because it is kind of spoilery once you get into it. However, I will say the ending was not the most satisfying. It's just one of those endings that you have to be like, Okay, so that was the ending. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend this, but I did think some of the writing was very beautiful, and I thought that some passages of it really made you like think. The way they were written, they would kind of like worm their way into your brain and be like, oh, that's like a very human thing to think. And I like books like that, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. And the final book I read this month is Endless Summer by Ellen Hildebrand. I love her books, and I saw this one at my bookstore for $6, and it's been on my list to read for a very long time because I want to read all of her books. This is kind of a collection of stories, so it's called Stories from Days That Last Forever. So it's 9 short stories, and some of them are bonus chapters to some of her previous books, and a couple are novellas, but they also are like playing off of her previous books. I had read some of the books that are referenced in this. Some of them I hadn't, but I find her writing is very easy to just kind of jump into. Like, she's very descriptive in her writing. I know some people don't like her writing. I love it. Like, I think she really paints the story. She really shows you who these people are, and I really enjoy that. So I found it easy to kind of like get into. But then, of course, you're only reading a very short, like, chapter or a couple of chapters, and you're like, oh, I have to leave those people and go to these people next. So it was obviously not my favorite book of hers because it's not really a book. It's kind of jumping into a bunch of her different stories. One of my favorites was The Country Club, which was to be read with The Identicals, which I have not read, but that makes me excited to read that book because I really enjoyed that one. I really liked The Sixth Wedding, which goes with 28 Summers, which I have read. And I really liked, what is the other one? The Workshop, which goes with Golden Girl, which I have also read. So those were my 3 favorites. So 1, I haven't read the accompanying book. 2, I have, but if you have read all of Ellen's books, or if you just really like her writing style, I would recommend picking this up. I gave it 3.5 stars only because it's not really like a book that you can just pick up and read, but it was a nice way to end the summer by reading this because it's very summer vibes, obviously. So that was the last book that I read in August. Let's move on to movies. I'm gonna check my Letterboxd, which is my absolute favorite way to log my movies. So let's see. This month in August, I watched 9 movies. I normally watch a lot of movies every year, and I realized in May I had only watched 7 movies for the whole year, which obviously this month I watched 9 movies, so that's more like my normal for a month. And so in the first like almost half of the year, I'd only watched 7 movies. So I said, okay, we're gonna get back into watching movies. I only watched 3 in May, 2 in July, but then in August I got back into it. And I love watching movies, so now that I've been watching more, I feel like I'm like coming back to myself. Like I feel like I'm more me now. So the first one I watched was a rewatch. It was The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I vividly remember reading the book and just being like obsessed with it. It really kind of, not to sound melodramatic, but I feel like it changed my life as I was reading it. I was also, you know, a teenager, so obviously that's the prime time to be reading that type of book, but it just really moved me and I really loved it. So then, obviously, it got turned into a movie, and I also vividly remember seeing this. I went to the drive-in with 2 of my friends actually to see The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and I just loved it. Like, I thought it was so well done. And again, I felt like that night was just such a pivotal night in like my early 20s. I think I was 20 when it came out. Yes, I was 20 when it came out. So it just, again, felt like I was seeing it at like the exact time I was meant to see it. And I don't think I've watched it since then. So it's been like 13 years since I last saw it. And I think it just still holds a really special place in my heart. And so I gave it 4 stars. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but I think it is just a really special movie to me based on when I read the book and when I saw it for the first time. Next, I rewatched another movie, and that is The Shawshank Redemption. I had seen this years ago. I think I watched it with my mom. There's a few movies that she was like, okay, I think you need to watch this movie. And so she would watch it with me. I hadn't seen it since that time, but I remember really enjoying it, obviously, and so I rewatched it. It's a perfect movie. It's a 5-star. It's one of those movies that as soon as you put it on, you can't like stop watching it. You're like, I just have to watch this to the end because it's so good. And I still think it's so funny that Riverdale called their prison Shankshaw. And for that, we are forever grateful for The Shawshank Redemption, because it at least gave us that gem of an Easter egg in Riverdale. Another rewatch, I've been rewatching a lot of movies that I have seen years ago and kind of like remember enjoying them, but don't remember every detail about them. Like I haven't watched them so many times that it's like burned into my brain. And that is Black Swan. And this is such an unsettling movie. Like the whole runtime, I am tense and on edge, and I'm just like waiting for the next thing to happen. And it's not even like anything happens, if that makes sense. Like, yes, things are happening, but it's not a horror movie. It's not that type of movie, but it is that type of unsettling anxiety feeling that you get through the whole movie. And honestly, that's kind of my favorite type of movie. I love having that like uneasiness. So I highly recommend if you for some reason have never seen that movie. It's another one that I can see a certain type of person being like, that's the end, that's what happened. But I mean, you gotta dig into the layers and you gotta like really get it. And I just think all the performances are so well done. I absolutely love the dress that Natalie Portman wears to like the gala. Obsessed with that dress. And yeah, I'm really glad that I rewatched it. Also this month, I did end up going to the theater to see Freakier Friday, which was very fun. There haven't been a lot of movies coming out in the theaters that I have been able to go to or wanted to go see, so it was very exciting to be back there. I live in a small town, so we don't get every single movie here, but thankfully we got Freakier Friday, and I love Freaky Friday. That was one of my like core movies growing up. I love Lindsay Lohan, always have, and Freaky Friday was one of those pivotal movies that, again, comes out at the exact right time for you and just becomes part of who you are and like your core personality. So I was a little skeptical as I heard that they were making a sequel because I wasn't sure how that would go. I thought the first movie is perfect. What are we doing here? But you know what? I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done. There were a few parts at the very beginning that I was like, mostly with her, on her door is like a sign and it says no triggering zone or something like that. And I was a little bit like, ooh, who is this movie for? Is it going to be picking fun at certain generations? Like I was kind of hesitant at the beginning. That was the only thing that happened. And then after that, I was kind of like, oh, okay, there's just a one-off thing and we're moving on. So that was nice. And I just think Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis do the body swap thing so well. Like that is such a skill to have as an actor and they're just incredible at it. And I think they were having so much fun. And it was just a really great time in the theater watching it. The one thing I really dislike about the original, and I'm kind of bummed that they like carried it over into the sequel, is Jake being so obsessed with Tess. Like, I just think that's a little icky, especially in the first one because I understand it's not actually Tess in Tess's body when he's like into her, but he doesn't know that. And so he's like into this older woman and thinks that she's into him. And like, I just don't like that in the first. And then of course they kind of carried it over into the second. It's not as bad in the second because obviously he's older, he's an adult now, but it still is just my least favorite part about the two movies. So I thought this was really well done and a lot of fun. I gave it 3.5 stars. The next movie is another perfect movie that I watched, and that is Inglourious Basterds. I had never seen this before. I don't know how, but I just hadn't. I, to be honest with you, think that the poster just never like called to me. I'm very visual person and I kind of was always turned off by the poster and I was like, even though my mom had said like it's such a good movie and I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'll get to it at some point. And I finally watched it and I do think that it is probably my favorite Tarantino movie that I have seen. I have not seen all of his movies, but I do think it's my favorite. I loved it. Again, as soon as I hit play, I was in I had to watch the whole thing. Like, I was not bored or uninterested at any point throughout the movie. And with, our dwindling attention spans, that's a very high praise. Christoph Waltz is insane in this movie. He speaks 4 different languages. He blew my mind. I just loved it so much. And I think part of the reason is because obviously a lot of Tarantino films are gory, and I don't necessarily do well with that. Like, it really affects me. I'll watch it, but I'll be like covering my eyes. And there weren't many moments that I had to like cover my eyes, and it was more about like the storytelling, and I really loved that. So highly recommend if for some reason like me you had never seen it, but this was a 5-star. Another first time watch that probably I should have seen by now was Goodfellas, and I didn't know anything about this movie other than it was about like gangsters. That's the only thing I knew. I had no idea it was based on a true story, so that was fun to find out. And I thought the way that this movie was told was very interesting because it didn't really have a conflict necessarily, like a concrete conflict set up from the beginning. It was more so kind of just going through Henry's life. Like, it was showing, starts with that first scene, which is like a shocking scene to start with, and then it goes back to him as a kid and kind of how he got there. But then you reach that scene and you still have a large chunk of the movie left, and so it's just kind of showing what happened after that. And so I thought that was interesting how it was told that way. Obviously, being based on a true story, that is probably the best way to tell a story like that, but I really enjoyed it. I can confidently say that being in a gangster family is not a life goal of mine. That is not something I will be pursuing. But yeah, again, if you have not seen Goodfellas, which came out in 1990, before I was born, you should check it out too, and I gave it 4 stars. Next, I watched Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which has been highly recommended to me by multiple people, and I am unfortunately one of those people that hears someone give me a recommendation, and I think, no, you don't know what I like, even though they do. And so then I just don't watch the movie until I feel like watching it. And so finally I was like, I think it's time. And again, 1 minute into the movie, I was like, oh, I get it. I understand why people recommended this to me. I love this. I'm very much into this. I'm all in on this movie. That almost makes me think I should take people's recommendations more seriously, but I know that I won't because that's just who I am. The editing in this is insane. The music is so good. I just loved it. Kieran Culkin in this is so funny. It has such a great cast. Like, people kept popping up and I was like, huh? I did not know all these people were in this movie, but so well done. And I kind of feel like it's like, in a strange way, it's probably just the changing hair colors, but it's like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind for like teens. Maybe there's something there, but I really, really enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars. And another rewatch, I watched Forrest Gump. And again, this is a movie that when I was younger, my mom was like, hey, sit down, we're watching this movie, you have no choice. We were watching Forrest Gump because I want you to see it. And I hadn't watched it since then. I vividly remember watching it, like I remember the room we were in. I remember feeling so sad at certain parts of the movie, and like I don't remember other movies like affecting me like that when I was younger, but I remember being like, this is really sad, and not knowing what that was as a child. But watching it again, I was crying and it was very sad, and the music is so good. The score is amazing. I'm assuming that most people have probably seen Forrest Gump, but I just love how it starts with Forrest like telling his story to just whoever will listen. And the one thing I have to say is Jenny is the absolute worst, and Forrest deserved so much better, and I just don't like her at all. And that is my takeaway from the movie. If you haven't seen Forrest Gump for some reason, you should probably go watch it. And also, it's funny, as I was looking on Letterboxd after I watched it, so many people like see this as pro-America, like boomer type propaganda or something. And I get where they're coming from with that. But at the same time, for me, as I watch a movie, I think, Did I enjoy it? Am I having a good time? Did it make me feel something? Even if that's something that you're like uncomfortable with, and that's what makes a movie enjoyable to me and something that I want to watch. So I hear what people are saying there, but at the same time, to me, I just enjoyed it because I like to sometimes watch a cheesy movie that makes me cry. Speaking of movies that make me cry, my last movie that I watched this month was another rewatch, and that was The Notebook. I foolishly decided to watch this after having a couple drinks one night. Within literally 2 minutes, I was crying because I had seen it so many times before. I know what the story is. So like you hear the music, you see something and you're like, oh my gosh, like the birds, and you're like, ugh, you just know what's coming. And so I was just crying. I think when I was like 15, to me, first of all, when I was younger, I was extremely obsessed with like Nicholas Sparks novels and things like that. But I really thought that Noah and Allie, it was like peak romance. Like I was like, this is the couple. And I was like obsessed with it. It was like the benchmark of what love is. Watching it now, because I have not watched it in quite a few years, probably like 12 years now. And watching it now, I definitely see that there's some toxicity in their relationship. Why do they fight all the time? Yeah, I can see that it's not perfect, but you know what? It still makes me cry. It still makes me feel something. It's still beautiful to me, like their whole love story. So I have to give it 4.5 stars. I have to. I took that half star off because of the fighting. This is probably also a movie that if you had never seen it before and you watched it now in your 30s, you'd be like, okay, like I see it, but like I don't fully get it. But when you watch this for the first time as a 15-year-old, that kind of like imprints on your brain, and then, you know, you just love it for the rest of your life. So those are all the movies I watched this month, and let's get into talking about some TV shows. Basically, I have a list of the TV shows that I've been watching this month. So the first, obviously, it's summertime, so is Big Brother. I have a love-hate relationship with Big Brother. I really, really, really love the old seasons before it was all about social media and following and people going on that have no idea what the game is or what they're doing, and everyone just wants to get to the jury and they don't actually care about winning the game. So that's what I really like, is like the peak Big Brother back in the day, but obviously I still watch. Maybe at some points I am hate watching. Overall, I guess I'm enjoying it for what it is, but it's very interesting seeing Rachel Riley on this season, where she has the old Big Brother mentality and is kind of having to adapt to this new game, how it is now, and seeing her interact with these players, saying how they just want to like make it to jury, and she's like, to jury, I want to win. Like, it's very interesting seeing that dichotomy of the two mindsets and seeing Rachel having to like adapt to that. I couldn't tell you who I want to win because I don't think I care enough, but it's entertaining, so it is what it is. Mostly I've been watching reality TV in the summer. I feel like that's kind of how it is, but I've been watching the new Project Runway, which I'm enjoying. I love Ethan, obviously, as a fan of Drag Race. I am rooting for Ethan. The twins are driving me crazy. But overall, the one thing that's been bothering me this season is that they do the elimination at the beginning of the next episode. I find by the time it comes out a week later, because this is not a show that all was released at one time that you can just binge and keep watching and see what happens. You have to wait a week. So by the time a week comes around, I forgot what the challenge was last week. I forgot who was in the bottom, what it looked like. And so then they're just like immediately saying, you're out. And I'm like, I don't even remember anything about this. The stakes are gone now. It needs to be the elimination at the end. You need to wrap it all up because the stakes are high. And then the episode ends and it comes back and you don't really care anymore. That's my one critique of this season. But overall, it's enjoyable. I've also been watching Below Deck, and I have to say, this is probably my least favorite season of Below Deck that I've watched. It seems like they are trying a lot of different things. I've seen all the discourse online about this, and I fully agree. It just seems like the editing is really weird. Like, with the chef, they're like making it seem like he's going to have a breakdown at any moment with this like high intense music and the splicing of clips, and then he's just like fine chopping an onion. So I don't know, it just feels weird to me a little bit, And I think the reason a lot of people, including me, watch Below Deck is to see the charters, to see the guests being ridiculous and how the crew deals with that and kind of like what they're doing to make their experience the best, and seeing the interpersonal with the crew, but like as they're working. And this season has focused so much on their interpersonal relationships on their days off. Probably like 75% of the show has been on their days off, and that's just not as exciting. It should be 75% of them at work and 25% focusing on the nights out and the days off, because obviously you get to know them better when they're not like looking after the guests and whatever, but that's not really why you watch Below Deck. It's to see them working, interacting with each other, with the guests, and these interpersonal relationships happening. So that's what I think of this season of Below Deck, but obviously I'm still watching, so what do I know? Next is The Real Housewives of Orange County, and I know a lot of people have been saying that reality TV has just been getting too depressing lately, that the fights that they're having, the things they're saying about each other, it's just getting to like a nasty level that isn't really fun to watch anymore. But to be honest with you, I feel like that's how the Housewives have always been. And when it is something that is such a long-running franchise, that's just what's going to happen. Like, these people are interacting with each other for so long that that's just kind of the route it's going to take. So unless they want it to pull a New York and get an all-new cast, which did not go well for them, I don't know if there's a way around it if they're going to keep the show going. I don't know if I have a fully formed opinion on it, but again, I'm still watching and we'll just see how the rest of the season plays out. And the final TV show that I have been watching this month is Succession. We're late to the party on this, but we started quite a while ago. There's only 4 seasons. Again, I'm sure everybody has already seen Succession and in 2023, but we had never seen it. We did just finish watching it last night, and I just think, obviously, it's a great show. I remember when I didn't watch it and I would be watching like the Golden Globes and the Emmys and things like that, and you would always hear like people being nominated, people winning, so you would constantly hear like the theme song. Obviously, I knew it was going to be good, and I'm really glad that we finally watched it. Like I said, we finished it last night. My mom is unsure about the ending. I think the ending was perfect. I think every character got exactly what they kind of deserve in terms of like the main 3. I think that it's difficult when you're watching a show that is about unlikable people. Nobody in that show is fully likable. They all are gritty, kind of complex characters. So everyone might have bits of them that you like, but you don't fully have one person that is the perfect person that you are like really rooting for them. They're all kind of flawed. So it's hard when you have a show like that. How do you wrap that up? And I, again, think that each of the siblings kind of got exactly what they deserve, and that's where they're going to move forward from there. I really like dramas. That's probably my favorite type of TV show. Obviously, I really like reality TV too, but I really like those like very tense kind of shows. So if you're into dramas and for some reason you haven't seen Succession, I highly recommend checking it out. Again, it's only 4 seasons and there's only like 10 episodes per season. So, you can kind of go through it pretty quickly. All right, the final section of the monthly recap is just anything else that I have been loving. So I have a little list on my phone so I don't forget anything. So the first thing I'll bring up is the Taylor Swift Travis Kelce announcement of their engagement, which was just unbelievable to me. I have been a fan of Taylor Swift since I was 15. More than half my life, I have been a ride or die for her. My friend Cassidy texted me and was like, "Did you see?" And I was like, "Huh?" And she was like, "Taylor Swift is engaged." And I was like, why is she tricking me like this? What is this cruel joke she's pulling on me? So I went to Instagram. It didn't load right away. Like, I saw nothing on her profile and I was like, "You're crazy." And then it finally popped up and literally my jaw dropped. And for like the next 5 minutes, I just was like, what is happening right now? Because I always thought, and I won't talk about this too much, like if you're not a Taylor Swift fan, stick with me, I'm almost done. But I really thought she would get married someday and then she would announce that however she wanted to just like after the fact, like many months after the fact. She'd be like, oh, by the way, we're married, whatever. So I never thought she would be like posting on her Instagram her engagement. Go back to 2015, 2016 and tell me that she did that. I'd be like, that doesn't sound like the Taylor Swift I know. So that was just very shocking to me, and I'm so happy for them. And yeah, that made me very happy. So moving on, the next thing is this cookbook that I have. So this is called Every Salad Ever, and it's by Greta Podleski. This has been the greatest purchase. This is from Indigo. I'm not sure if it's exclusive to Indigo, but that's where I got it. And it is like all of these salads, like they look so beautiful. I love how every single recipe has a picture to it, because that is always something that I look for. And she very clearly says if things are like gluten-free or vegan or dairy-free or whatever it is. She has little ways for you to like customize things, and I love salads. Probably one of my favorite foods because I think you can customize them so much, and I'm a vegetarian, so it's like a good way for me to incorporate some protein and things like that into my diet. But this has been a game changer. We have been going through, I think we've tried like 5 of them now, and every single one, you're like, oh, this is the best one. Then you make another one, you're like, no, this is the best one. Like, they're so good. And because she is from Canada, something that I really appreciate is that, let me find the recipe. So we made this brown rice cowboy caviar salad, and it has like black beans and pinto beans and things like that in it. And she says like 1 can of black beans, but in the brackets, she says 19 ounce / 540 mils. And in Canada, we don't always have one of those sizes. I think the milliliters isn't always on our cans. Sometimes just says the ounces. And in American recipes, they don't like have both size amounts. So then you have to like look it up. That's a small little thing, but it really made a difference to me, because when I was shopping for the ingredients, I was like, oh, this is very clear to me. What can I need to buy? Highly recommend if you're looking for a new cookbook. Sticking with food, just a quick side note, I have been loving cottage cheese my whole life. My mom doesn't like cottage cheese, so she has always said, ugh, cottage cheese is so gross, it's all lumpy and blah, blah, blah. And so I was just like, okay, I guess I don't like cottage cheese either. And then I was watching a video, and they were making their lunch, and they had some like cottage cheese on this nice sourdough bread with everything bagel seasoning, and I was like, that looks good. I think I want to try this. And so we bought some cottage cheese. It's delicious. It's like the best thing I've ever had. So all my life I have been deprived of cottage cheese because of my mother. And now I'm like, I love this. It's just so good. It's like very neutral until you put things on. Anyway, I'm not gonna go on a cottage cheese rant more than I already have, but I've been loving it. So I'll talk about 2 creators that I've been really enjoying, and I kind of already alluded to one in my channel update video, and that is Magically Caitlin here on YouTube, and she's on Instagram. And she's actually the one that I saw making her lunch of cottage cheese on toast. So shout out to her for changing my life with cottage cheese. I've already said this in that previous video, but she's a real comfort creator. She just kind of vlogs her everyday life, very cozy vibes, and she also goes to Disney. So I've been rewatching a lot of her old Disney trips. And yeah, it's very nice to like have her videos on in the background as I'm like doing work or just getting ready in the morning, because she's just very calming. So definitely check her out if you like Disney videos and home vlogs and coziness and Canadian content creators. The other creator is Emily Samantha on TikTok. So I found her because she was watching Hamilton for the first time and reacting to it. And I stumbled upon one of her videos, so then I was watching it in real time. So every night I would go onto her page and see if she had updated and like posted another reaction video. She was posting like 3 a day, I think, because obviously Hamilton is 3 hours long. So she was reacting to the whole thing. First of all, I love Hamilton, and I loved watching someone that knew nothing about it react to it, because it brought me back to the first time that I watched it, and I wish I could like erase my memory and watch it again for the first time. But I remember her very first reaction video. It starts and like Lin-Manuel Miranda is like, Alexander Hamilton, and she goes, ooh, this is gonna be good. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly how you feel the first time that you watch Hamilton. Immediately you're like, oh, I knew this was good, like people talk about this, but this is gonna be really good, and it is so good. One, if you've never seen Hamilton, please watch it on Disney Plus. Like, just do it, it's so good. Even if you think you don't like Broadway shows or musicals, do it, you'll like it. Two, go check out Emily Samantha on TikTok to see her reacting to it after you've watched Hamilton. Only do that, step one. Step two, she also does some other reaction videos, and I just really enjoy her, so I've been watching some of her other TikToks, and yeah, that was something that brought me a lot of joy this month. And the final thing I'll talk about is I have been trying to limit my social media time. So I'm starting slow. I use the, what is it called on your phone? I think it's called downtime. Like, it's just in the settings of your iPhone, but I have set most of my apps. You can select ones that are always available, but most of my apps, they like lock at 8 p.m. until, or 8:30 p.m. until 6 in the morning, so that I am not tempted to like just go on social media late into the night when I should be reading and going to sleep. There are other like apps and systems that you can use that like actually lock it down so that you literally can't use it. Using downtime on your phone, you can ignore the limit for like a minute, 15 minutes, the whole rest of the night. Like, you can do that. But like I said, this is kind of for a first step for me. I haven't ignored it because when it pops up, it reminds me, and then I go, oh right, I don't want to be scrolling and doing this, so I just close it. That's like a willpower thing that I'm able to do. It has really been helping with like my mental health, with just feeling more productive, with trying to get more sleep at night. So if that's something that you think you would benefit from as well, I highly suggest looking into that. And that is it. That is a wrap on August. Thank you so much if you have made it to the end of this video, because it's a long one. I know I have been rambling on, but I really love talking about the things that I love, and I appreciate you being here to listen to me. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books or watched anything I've been watching, if you have any recommendations for me. I know I said I don't take recommendations, but I will file them away. And yeah, just let me know any thoughts you have. Let's have a conversation, and make sure you're subscribed to see my upcoming videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!